Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to try and keep up with the amount of energy Jen has actually created in this room. So we have an amazing conversation lined up for all of you, and we are going to take a look at how we're going to reimagine customer value creation. Definitely make that topic very, very interesting. Let me go ahead and start introducing the panelists on the stage. We have people from different walks of life, from different parts of the globe, and here to share a wealth of advice for all of us. So to my right is Smita. Smita is the Vice President of Engineering at Simpla. And brings 22 years of experience working in the health tech field. She leads product development and innovation for all of Simpla's go-forward products. Extremely passionate about tech and product management, a constantly endeavor to push the boundaries of what's possible in health tech. Welcome, Smita. Now, I'd like to introduce Josh Marquardt as well, who leads the healthcare vertical for the Americas. Josh has led transformative initiatives within the payer, provider, and patient spaces over the last 22 years. His experience ranged from massive enterprise systems to disruptive startups. Now, this is also Josh's maiden trip to India. So, Josh, I can't help but ask, how do you feel and what are your views?
I love it. I really love it. It's been a wonderful experience.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, last but not the least, Corey Nagad, our global chapter head. He has 25 years of experience in tech and management consulting business from companies such as PwC, IBM, SAS Institute, before joining Tietoevry 5 years ago. Corey is now leading the global chapter function in Create as of May this year, and he lives in Norway, like we all know, with his wife and 1 out of 4 kids still at home. A warm round of applause for all of us. Thank you for being here. Now, let me just spend a minute about explaining the significance of today's panel discussion, right? Now, all of us are going through immense amount of, we're experiencing a lot of change around us, and organizations are always in a very unsettling landscape. Now, disruption is really the new normal. Innovation, or in fact reinvention or innovation, is the new reality. Now, on one hand, you have customers who have myriads of expectations. They're pretty fickle-minded, unpredictable. But on the other hand, you have companies who are trying to catch up, cope up, keep up with this pace of change. Now, on one hand, you have companies who are very systematically, solidly leading the change, disrupting their industry. But on the other hand, you have other companies who are playing the wait-and-watch game, kind of a little risk averse, I would say, but definitely moving. Now, service providers like us, we have to understand what's the new definition of value, and we have to adapt quickly. So with that, our conversation today is really about what should companies and service providers how should they reimagine value delivered to their customers and their end users. So let's dive right in. My first question is really about, do you think the definition of value has really changed? Smita, do you want to kick it off as to what is now versus probably what was 5 years ago?
Sure, thank you so much. So, I definitely love to talk about value creation because at the end of the day, that is what we are in the business of. Every product, every service provider is in the business of creating value for their clients and their customers. So if you look traditionally, value was driven by product features and what a customer would pay for the features. My product has 20 features, you pay something. Gone are those days. Nobody cares about features or product functionality. They care about the outcomes and the solutions the products can drive. So even in our field, when we look at customers, they are looking at value creation. They are looking at how the product can solve their problems, not how their workflows can work around the product to solve the problems. So there is more focus on customers right now. We have moved from product-centric to a customer-centric approach when we come to value creation. And there is a lot more emphasis on voice of the customer. There is a lot more emphasis on user research. There is a lot more emphasis on fast product development with built-in cycles for feedback and pivoting based on customer feedback, based on technology trends, and based on everything else that is happening in the market. So we obviously ourselves as product companies, and we look towards our partners who help us in product development like Tietoevry, to help us innovate in that journey, like to help us bring more technology focus into our companies, because you work across the industries. You work for healthcare, you work for financial institutions, and other industries. So you have a wealth of knowledge how you can bring in innovation from each of those sectors and see how it can fit into our solutions with our customers. So at the end of the day, it's all about creating value for the customer in an innovative and disruptive way. Like I heard an example about the iPhone. So in the world of iPhones, me as a product developer cannot give a BlackBerry experience to our customers, right? So it's all about figuring out what the customers want and leading the innovation ahead of the customers. Like bringing new ideas, bringing innovation that the customers haven't thought about, and new ways for them to solve their problems.
So that reminds me of a Steve Jobs quote. He always says that customers don't really know what they want. It's essentially up to us to give it to them. What about you, Corey? Do you want to weigh in on what Smita just said?
Yeah, I think you touched on the, going from product centric to more service oriented, and I think the perception of value has changed dramatically. What is it? I think we go deep customer understanding, and also make it more long term. I think the complexity landscape has shifted enormously over the past few years, as we heard on the prior presentation, and the customers who will be serving their customers in the long term need to have a robust ecosystem behind when it's changing so fast. So it needs to be more modular, I guess, in order to have a robustness to actually serve and create customer value over time. That's what I think.
Wonderful. While you're talking about that, do you think, since you mentioned about the ecosystem, I mean, service providers like us, how do we go about providing that? Does it mean we reimagine ourselves, or reimagine the expertise we bring to the table?
I think we need to set up the way of working so we can capture brilliant ideas from the room here. I look forward to go around to actually capture some of the input on the demos. And if you do that wherever you're present, so you actually tap into the brains, the wise people we have in our company, for instance, and also when we interact with the customers. So I think the clue here is to actually be able to capture it and actually say, well, that was pretty smart. We should do that in Western Europe, which I touched on. I'm bringing ideas home from India on Friday. To what can we do in Western Europe? What can we do in from other regions to India and so on? I think that there's a mechanism or logistics issue to that. And so that companies like ourselves, we need to build those mechanisms that enable us to systematically, with just system one thinking, we just do it. But we need to go into the system two thinking and figure out how to actually organize ourselves, the way of working, so you actually capture the good ideas I'm going to hear about later.
You won't be disappointed, I can assure you that.
I'm looking forward to it.
So Josh, you're from the market, and from a market perspective, what do you think are the key trends that are totally disrupting businesses today? And do you want to leave any particular industry as such?
Sure. My industry that I focus on is healthcare. And some of the disruptive pieces that I see when I think of value is how much we put in versus how much we get out. I put very little energy into some of my ChatGPT questions, but I get an immense amount of information back that I can then use with my mind shift that freed up. So Sridhar talking about making things easier for us, well, that frees up our brains to do other things. So to make that real, we spend a lot more time now understanding value as applied both internally, and we're all in the business to make profit, revenue, and whatnot. But we also are in the business of being able to satisfy the customer, which then in turn brings us the revenue and profit that we wanted. So we have a lot more ability and recognition around design thinking that can change how we approach the customers, and we don't have to sacrifice our revenue in order to achieve customer satisfaction. We don't have to sacrifice the customer. Call centers are a good example of that, where they were done to people versus done with.
True. I'm so glad you're talking about keeping humans in the center while we're all talking about automating and increasing productivity. Coming back to you, Smita, you have a multitude of stakeholders. If you look at simplest business model, you have clinicians, you have patients, you have doctors, you have nurses. Now, how do you think is the customer experience really changing? Are they becoming unpredictable, impatient, and what is simpler doing about it?
So you're right about the customers becoming more demanding because the customers are used to the modern technologies. They have these fancy apps on their iPhones. There is self-service. They can order anything from Amazon. You never need to call somebody to track your order and things like that, right? And when it comes to enterprise applications, the enterprise applications are still trailing from a customer experience standpoint because they're big, massive applications. To change them takes a lot of effort and time. So from a customer standpoint, they are more demanding on price, they are more demanding on value, they are more demanding on customer experience, and they are more demanding on just the look and feel of the application. It should look nice, it should do the work that they want to do, and it should do that in the easiest way possible. And it should help them automate their work as much as they can. So simpler obviously is in the middle of all this, and if we have to survive and thrive as an organization, we have to address these needs. So we leverage a lot of advanced technologies to do that. Like if the customers are looking for secure data, then we use things like blockchain to maintain data sanctity and all that. We are investing a lot into AI right now because we are in the healthcare operations space, and operations is all about efficiency and productivity. So we want to use AI to make the business process for a hospital very efficient and optimal so that it suffices their need for price, it suffices their need for speed, it suffices their need for just the customer experience with the automation. Like if I am a clinician or if I am a nurse in a hospital, I want to spend 100% of my time taking care of patients. I don't want to spend even a minute managing the IT applications. Like I don't want to enter information about the patient. I don't want to look at enter information about their schedule or manage it on paper. I don't want to enter medication information. I want to spend the time thinking about patient care and investing that in patient care. So our job right now is to bring that level of automation through AI so that the customers or the clinicians, the nurses can spend time on patient care and not have to bother with the operational aspect of their job. So that's the innovation we are investing in.
Wonderful. And that actually leads us to the next segment of the discussion, which is really about how are we innovating to solve all these challenges that we just spoke about. Now let me start off with a question, and Corey, it's to you, right? So we're talking about customers expecting us to be nimble, expecting us to be, I would say, adapt to changing priorities. But on the other hand, they also expect us to meet all their timelines and deadlines with predictable quality and also with the right expertise. Now, given all of these expectations, that's with everybody, how does innovation fit in? And can you throw us or tell us a story about any particular business challenge that we've had from a customer, and instead of approaching it traditionally, we probably thought of an innovative solution, but still met the customer expectations.
So I think the whole notion of innovation in enterprise, you can think of it as as grown up, it's rigid and hard to change, and how can you do innovation in such a enterprise context? And I think that's where again you need to think about how would you structurally actually capture good ideas? What do you as a in the leadership how we organize it to actually take the event today, for instance, as a systematic yearly thing. Could be quarterly, to capture good ideas on how to brainstorm and influence the offerings or products you take to market. So I think that's the very important for enterprises to not get stuck in their silos, but actually put the structure in place to actually capture innovative ideas. I think that's the foundation that needs to take place.
I agree, and that's probably the core reason why we have chapters now, isn't it?
Exactly, so that's why I have a job together with some other lovely people. I think that's a very smart move by the organization because we have run innovation, you could say, in the pockets across the world, but it doesn't necessarily share it effectively. Now we're putting a sharing hub in the middle, so it's much easier with the hub and spoke thinking on bringing ideas. So if I don't sleep at night or wake up early in the night, this is what I think about. Actually, because I see we will succeed and actually take out some value of that we have never done before.
Wonderful. Josh, over to you. Given that you work with disrupting startups, why don't you give me an example of how disruptive a solution you actually went ahead and how did you approach that and what happened?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that you talked more about the enterprises. I was part of an organization where we innovated in an enterprise, but we had to put it in a different structure. We could not have it as part of the main machine because the main machine is so focused on thin margins and turning things around. So by putting it on the outside at arm's length and being funded and having a market internally, we had an advantage over the typical startup. And that's a little bit unique model because we went after the business value and the problem at hand before we ever talked about that. Okay? And then you can apply tech, which sometimes isn't even innovative or high tech, an old tech that can solve a current problem or a problem that's never been solved. So it's been a very interesting journey around pulling not only the tech, but also other experiences. So taking in adjacent experts in the consumer side that have had great success. We pulled in people that built infomercials. We've all seen infomercials. They work. So how do we incorporate some of those components so that we can get people engaged in healthcare without it feeling like an intern?
That's very, very interesting, actually, bringing in a new set of team with probably new approach mindset.
Yes.
Against to solve a very interesting problem.
It was very enlightening for us.
I'm sure. Very interesting. So, Smita, if you have one wish from your service provider, what would that be?
Well, the one wish, and I talk a lot about that, is we would love our service providers to be much better than us at technology. I mean, if any organization is focused on their segment and the technology that they have, and all of us deal with a lot of legacy products that we need to maintain, and the R&D budgets may be limited for innovation. So we definitely rely or want to rely a lot on our service providers to bring in innovation and bring in the good technology ideas that would help us be bigger, better, faster. So definitely, along with everything else that we need, deliver on time, with quality, give us the best people, obviously, but we would definitely love to see our partners leading innovation and taking us along with that.
That's very, very interesting that you said that because what I've heard customers say is that, okay, great, I'm from probably the healthcare industry, but tell me what's going on in banking, right? Or tell me what's going on in telecom or even in public services. I'd like to learn from those industries and see what can be applied here. That's well said, Smita. Thank you. Okay, so I'll now kind of get a little more specific. And question to you, Josh. Customer retention is close to impossible right now. If you don't give customers a sticky experience, amazing experience, something that they really want to get back to all the time. Like, of course, you start ordering something in Amazon, you want it to be way faster the next time you order something again and again. So you always go back to the same product. What are we doing to prioritize experience when you're looking at it? How do you start with an experience as a problem when probably the client is telling you another business challenge that they have? So how do you reorient them as well?
How do I reorient the business teams?
Yes.
Or the technology teams?
Both. I mean, how do you essentially get that as being the first main critical thing that people should look at before addressing everything else?
Well, it can be difficult. They're focused, like back in the days, I want an app for iPhone. Does that solve anything? Is it really an app? Is it a feature, or should it never exist in the first place? And so I'll just borrow from the chapter lead for design and design thinking that is brought into the board. Getting people focused on how to create that value by looking at what is the unmet need or the underlying problem is often not what they're saying. To the point about Steve Jobs and all the way back to Ford, if you ask them what they wanted, they'd say faster horse. Right? So we're looking for those components. And sometimes our clients are so focused on, I want this, that we sometimes have to come in and add to that, to provide a little bit more value on top of that in another way to get it done. And that'll create more stickiness for us, interest from potential clients, that will bring in more than just what they asked for. And in fact, we're telling them why this particular solution probably won't work, and bringing in the adjacent solutions. We've already brought in with one create a telecom space and to the medical device area, and that solved a bunch of problems instantly. But we hadn't.
Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, maybe to add to that, I think also the ecosystem between customer, service provider, and other suppliers and so on is key, also from an innovation perspective. I sat in a steering committee for a large mobile bank implementation in the Nordics, together with BCG, which was an implementation partner and the customer, and we ran agile, had squads, and set aside time for innovation, how to get the mortgage investments and all the features that needed to be on the mobile app. So the customer had not defined the requirements to detail, but it was left to the projects. It was a 50, 60 FTE large team, organized very well, and worked agile and scrum-based and so on. And the requirements, the feature, the functions that came along the way. So it was a fantastic experience and also example, I think, about how a customer, first and foremost, are innovative enough to actually work in new ways. And I think it brought out the best of everyone who joined the team to work in that. And also from a retention perspective in a company like a service company like ours, this is what many would want to do, work in a way like that.
So one last question before I actually get to the other twist in this segment. What is one, for today's workforce who have just about entered the industry or probably in the industry for several years now, probably one, say 2 or 3, what do you want to give them as, say, the most important thought or advice, something they should think and feel about every day when it comes to working for clients or their end users? Smita, you want to go ahead?
So I primarily come from an engineering background, so I would like to talk to the engineers in the room, and I would say that there is only one thing that you have to do every day, like do the best that you can, like learn as much as you can, because you are doing a job, like whether it's with the technology or it's with the solution, just try to learn as much as you can about what you are doing and do the best that you can in front of it. Because that's what is going to make a difference to a client or a customer, and that's going to make a difference to your career as well.
Thank you. What about you, Josh?
I love that, and on top of that, I think this is what we would include is get smart about the topic that you're working with. If I'm in healthcare, get smart about diabetes.
Build the expertise.
Yeah. You'll have better solutions, you'll think through the potential unearthed problems that you might have. And then the other thing I'd say is examine your assumptions. We often go into a solution with preconceived ideas or biases, and I'd encourage everybody to go to the DEI piece later today. You have to examine those assumptions, especially when your current solution is not working. There's something underneath.
That's wonderful. So you were talking about learning continuously, and you're actually talking about revalidating probably what you already know. So over to you, Corey. What about you?
So I think I would point to the productivity. Actually, stay curious and not only within the field, but pay attention to the project and the customer you're working for, and you pick up signals of something that is not working, something else we could do, and bring that back to the team, because there's so much. Knowledge in the team, so it's actually delivering the solution, and they are the feet on the ground as well that pick up issues or ambitions from the customer, and so bring that back home, feed it to the customer team in those in a sales role or so on, and we can actually do something about it potentially, because I think the most customers want us to be proactive. I've spoken with many, and that's the main feedback I seem to be getting is like they want to be challenged. They want to be, as you say, Smita, be better than you yourself, and to come proactively. It's just appreciated by customers. So that's what I think is on top of what both Joseph Smith has said.
Very nice. Now, before I hand it over to Harry for sharing his reflection, I am going to get into an interesting segment called a rapid fire question. Let me warn you, you're not going to have much time to think, so we need very quick answer. I'm just going to ask you one. And I'll start with you, Corey. If you were to go back to the university again, which skill would you pick up and why?
Oh, that's. I think I would pick up curiosity, as a topic. I feel I'm curious, but I think that's a highly valuable. I would go deeper and into more softer skill set. I think.
Very interesting. Curiosity as a skill. Nice to know. All right. Over to you, Josh. Name any person, dead or alive, with whom you would want to have dinner and why?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. It might be an odd one, but I think the way Napoleon went at different solutions for whether it's war or politics, he had a keen sense of how to encourage people, how to get them to follow, and had not just following orders, but he had people and soldiers who they loved him, they wanted to follow, they wanted to change it. His success is a different question at that, but a lot of, especially for him. But that's where I would want to go and have dinner with is that kind of a leader. What could I learn and what could I unlearn?
Really nice. I did not think you would go that far though. Okay, Smita, what's that one thing in your wish list that you want technology to do for you?
Well, if I were to be very selfish, I would say the same thing that I heard sometimes.
Not washing laundry is like an answer, but something else now.
So basically, the only wish that I have is for technology in the future to be more socially conscious. Like when technology develops, let's look at the rise of the social media, or let's look at the AI girlfriends and boyfriends, or whatever AI can do for people. I really want technology to be more socially conscious and to make the lives of people better. Like I want cleaner energy, I want more innovation in healthcare so that people can have bigger health spans, people can live healthier for longer. So that's something I'm really looking forward to.
That is so deep and that is also very relevant to healthcare. Thank you so much, Smita. I would actually request Hari now to come on and address the audience, share some reflections and comments on what he's just said. Yeah.
I actually have a microphone on. Well, thank you all for the exciting discussion. Reimagining the customer value creation, what a topic it is in this business. I've been in engineering since 80s, and it was so much about technology always, and especially in the Nordic countries, we didn't even know how to sell it. So we always talk about the technology. But what I hear, and I totally agree that it's totally transformation from products to outcomes of the solutions and solving the business problems instead. So that's how we bring the value and from the product centric to user centric. Whether it's a customer or customer's customers or so on. Or even sometimes it might be an internal colleague or solution. So it boils down to the innovation. What can we bring to the table to the customers? And I hear that a lot also. One of our biggest customers is one of the Nordic telecom vendor, and they tell us almost every day, bring more innovation. And like I said already earlier, innovation doesn't necessarily mean that we come up with some cool technology. How do you actually help them to transform their R&D? For example, they get more out of their own team and we help them, let's relocate this project to this location, let's establish some new processes to make it efficient and that. So quite often we only think about the technology. It's much more than that. Then, of course, the design thinking is very important, as just mentioned, human-centric and so forth. But I'm actually kind of wanting to ask from you when we talk about the innovation, and so how should we do that? And with who? I mean, there are all kinds of ways to do, I've been reading and writing a blog post about entrepreneurship. We have a dedicated, organizations, like you have the dedicated into innovation, but innovation is not a problem. Should you allocate more time for innovation? Works, hackathons, you name it. There are all kinds of ways to do it, and we need to come up with an idea. So because if it's only an app, so there needs some nurturing from the leaders of the organization. Maybe Cora, let's start with you first. How would you actually do in our company?
In the innovation?
Yeah.
One of the concrete actions I'm thinking about is to actually create a place where we actually capture ideas from anywhere. So we can systematically go through the idea from inception and say, "Wow, great idea, let's push this forward to the next." I think Kim had a slide on that where you saw the funnel. So I think we need to do something about that. That's you capture ideas in the moment, but then you have different things like this. You need to think multifaceted. I think on innovation, but I think the daily, creativity that goes on in many everyone's head, having channel where that can be captured. I think it's so that's one concrete action I'm thinking about launching.
Good. George, you talk about the challenge in the customer.
Yeah.
I think that's very important because quite often they have something in their minds and you may come up with, okay, but this is not the best way to do it. So how do you tell the customer and co-create with them and getting them engaged with your new ideas?
I guess the biggest thing I would say is to have a yes and mindset. So they have a problem, they have an idea, this issue, they probably know their business better than we do, at least their particular company. So getting them to understand what we add to that, we can show them, yes, here's your idea, here's how it came to be, here's how it could be better. And over-delivering in a certain sense enables that trust so that we can push back. Secret time.
Okay, next to our guest, what do you think about, if we come to you and start completely challenging your own innovations and ideas and bring something completely different? What is your approach as a client, R&D leader?
So as a client, what we usually look at is when we work with a vendor, we look at what is their potential to help us in the future. So let's say Tietoevry has built a credibility with us that we know that Tietoevry is an innovative organization. If you bring challenging solutions to us, we would definitely debate it with you. Like, you would have your assumptions, we would have our assumptions, and we would talk about it. Like, to give you an example, like I said, we're investing a lot in AI recently. So last week, the Tietoevry team that we work with, of their own, they said, you have a product called Simpler Contract. Here is an AI-based innovation you can put into that. Are you interested to see a demo? We said, why not? We want to see that demo. So we saw that demo last Friday and we'll probably have some follow-up conversations to see if that adds value to our customers. So definitely, based on the credibility that you have built, we would be more than willing to partner with you for you to challenge our assumptions, for you to bring innovative solutions to us. Now, whether they make it to the market or not will depend on the merit of the solution, because even internally, when we try 10 things, one thing makes it to the market because the other 9 are just learning opportunities.
Very good. Maybe even you last, you've been working on this innovation space a lot recently, bringing sort of your experience from the other companies you joined recently. How do you see we now take forward our lead in AI? Where do we really focus? Because there are all kinds of things from, this bot stuff and even to, deep AI in 6G telecommunications or self-driving cars, so we could focus on so many things that we can get lost in this AI journey. So what is your advice to the whole team?
So, Hari, my answer is very simple. For me, and also leaning on what Jan just mentioned, right? AI is this bright and shiny object. Gen AI is the even more shinier object that's out there. But unless you're actually able to translate that to a client problem and solve it and make it relevant for them, I don't think we're going to be able to move the needle forward. And for that, I think it's important that anything we do in terms of understanding AI, I think it has to be application oriented. And of course, that doesn't have to be path breaking, but anything that we're doing which is repetitive or which is probably which can be done in a more efficient way, can AI do that better and smarter? I think we should just apply that common sense and get that solution out there. For me, that is the way we move the needle in building more AI expertise and make it more domain relevant.
I totally agree. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you everybody. And I think that brings us to the end. Do we have time for some Q&A with the audience now? Probably a couple.
Anybody has questions? One question.
One question.
There you go. Actually, I have a question. I'm going to go down to your superior rank.
I want to kind of turn this upside down and submit it since you're a client. You can be exempt, but you don't have to be. But when we're talking about innovation in this way, we're talking about valuation. What about for our business? What is the future look? So Josh, you and Corey in the past have had client hats and more service hats, but what does pricing look like as we move forward? As we're able to deliver on this innovation, to do more for less, what does that mean for us in the services business for how we charge? And are you seeing, I'm pointing at you saying you're exempt, but I'm pointing at you. I'll point at you. What does it look like then in the future for how we do our pricing? If we've traditionally been charging by the hour.
Right.
So where does it go? What are the trends in the future for that?
You want to go first?
No. So I think I think we will see more, standardization. With the technology that we can actually do standardizes, even though we address custom problems. But the way we work, the way we put together, I think we will be more confident on, what it takes of effort and so on. So it makes it easier to actually go into an outcome-based pricing model. So I think that is a future that is untapped for us, because if you do that, also now from a service provider perspective, if you do that, the value perception, there is no gap or a very little gap between client and us. And if you repeat that business, it can be quite lucrative. So you can reinvest in R&D and become better on taking higher risk. Sometimes we price something on outcome based and it doesn't work that well. So you spend more, but because we have done it over time and you have a good margin, and so you can take more risk, and then I think you can become more innovative as well and work agile, very close with clients, and not to be too specific on how many hours and so on, but you need to build that experience before you get the outcome based.
I would 100% agree. You kind of took the words out of my mouth. We often get asked, where's your skin in the game? Our biggest clients want to know if we're just going to offer more hours, that means more cost to me. There's no real value there. So getting to value-based pricing, fixed bid, or taking a share of whatever the transaction might be, if we can agree upon it. That brings wholly new issues to deal with that and can create some really misaligned incentives. But that's where I think we need to work with our customers and come up with a model that says what's good for us is also good for you and vice versa. Otherwise, they'll diverge and we'll get in a big argument about scope.
I mean, I agree with what you are saying. Like, as a customer, I mean, we hate billing by the hour, to be quite honest, because it guarantees an output, but it does not guarantee an outcome. So we are unable to do the outcome based or a fixed price thing because we are unsure of the scope, we are unsure of the outcome. So if we can bring surety on what the scope is, what the outcome would be in the ecosystem, we would definitely love to kind of move to a more outcome based where I'm sure you can manage your productivity internally and maximize your margins as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And that brings us to the end of the conversation today. And we've covered a lot of ground with this topic, especially around redefining value, innovative mindset, and of course, continuous learning that we need to adopt anyway. So this has been a wonderful panel, a very dynamic one. Thank you so much for all the energy you've thrown in. And last but not the least, thank you so much for joining us here at Tech Utsav. A round of applause for that.